I call to order the August 12th, 2016 public hearing of the City of Prescott Preservation Commission. Members present at this meeting are, starting from my right, Tony Teeters, Christy Hastings, Russ Buchanan, Gary Edelbrock, and we have Robert Buford. I am DJ Butke, your chair. This is an open public hearing and is being videotaped and tape recorded by the city. The proceedings are being televised by representatives of the public media, local cable, and or radio stations, and may also be rebroadcast. The number of commission members present are 6. It will require 4 votes for a majority. All parties wishing to be heard on an issue are required to raise their hand, be recognized by the chairman prior to speaking. Speakers are expected to state their name and address for the record so that we may know who is speaking and be able to contact them at a later date if necessary. Please turn off any cell phones and electronic devices, and if you haven't already done so, please sign the attendance roster before leaving the meeting. First on our agenda is the approval of minutes of the July 8th, 16th meeting. Have you all had an opportunity to peruse the meeting minutes? Can we have a motion?
Chairman, motion to approve the meetings as written.
I'll second that.
We have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously, I assume.
6-0.
Okay, item number 2 on our agenda is HP 16-006, 342 South Vermont Avenue, Historic Preservation District 13, Southeast Prescott, APN 110-03-021. Request approval for deck addition, repair, and roof modifications in rear. Also attending this meeting, we have our Historic Preservation Specialist, Kat Moody. We have in attendance also our Planning Manager, George Worley, our Administrative Specialist, Darla Eastman, and I don't see, oh, we do have our councilman. Let's see, we got Shiska.
Steve
right?
Shiska. Yep.
They got your first name as chairman.
No thanks.
No thanks. Okay. And we shall now hear from Kat Moody, a presentation on item number 2.
Good morning. As stated, this is a property at 342 South Mount Vernon Avenue, and this is a request for changes in the rear of this home. This is, it's a little washed out once I get it so you can see the front door actually. This is the front view of the home. Also shown here on the rendering. The request here is for an addition of a rear deck and additionally to repair the existing rear deck that's there. In the north elevation here, this would be a addition of a rear deck. The existing configuration, and I'll show you the drawing and I'll show you some photographs so you can piece this together. There is already currently a deck in place. The additional deck that's being requested is over here on this portion of the home, and it ties into the existing deck. What's there right now is this. And you can see where a shed roof here has been added that's floating under the soffits of the original roof. This roof style is called a clipped gable, and so what it is kind of a clipped hip roof that's extended off the end of a gable, and that's one of the defining characteristics. And you can see from these elevations that clipped gable roof design is repeated throughout the different elevations of this home. And by having this shed roof here, it's actually obscuring the clipped gable, and kind of this is not very well integrated. So the idea is to create a rear addition of a deck here that will tie in to the existing deck, and then this shed roof would be removed, which would then basically expose those two clipped gables at the rear of the house. And then additionally, then there's going to be a covered patio underneath this new deck addition at the rear of the home. And so overall, I think that this will actually restore the rear so that you have a view of these clipped gables at the, not that, the homeowner will have a view of those gables at the rear of their home. The changes are not going to be visible from the street. And we do have the architect here to answer any questions. So with that, I will turn it over to you all for discussion.
Do you have any comments from the commission?
I think this is a great way to preserve the integrity of the architecture in the back, even though they aren't necessarily required to adhere strictly to that, being that it's in the back and not in public view, and to get what they want.
I have just a slight comment, and that would be, I kind of like the idea of this this glass guardrail that's being proposed, because one of our directives is to articulate the difference between new construction and existing construction. I too concur with the idea of preserving those end gables, and it's quite a nice look. Can we hear from the applicant?
Todd Marr of Headwaters Architect, 212 South Montezuma. The deck in the rear is in extreme ill repair, and quite honestly, it's about ready to fall down. So I appreciate your comments. The intent is to take this patio cover, we're not sure when that was put in, but to preserve that gable by the kitchen on the right. There is a permit underway to do interior remodeling, but not disturb the exterior. I did want to point out that if you look on the photograph, on the lower left-hand portion, there's some windows that we have just about got the permit to remove those and provide French doors to access the lower portion with that. It appears that over the years there was some repair work done that was just done very poorly. I think it was mainly to keep water from getting in that lower level, and this deck and expanding it out I think is going to really help that to make it work. The windows in the home have been kind of spot replaced over the years. There's a mishmash of all different kinds. The intent is the colors would stay the same. We wouldn't change those. That's the one consistent element. And then where any brick is used, it will be carefully saw cut and repaired so it looks original, even though it's obviously not. So the intent was to remove this horrible patio cover in the back and really bring it back to what it really was. We anticipate that the fascia will have to be repaired and replaced in some spots, but the intent is to match existing with that. There is a fireplace in the middle of the home that I think was added back in the 80s perhaps, and we're going to remove that. It's just a
It's this in the picture, right?
yes.
That
Yeah, it's just a stucco spark arrestor on the top, and there is a brick chimney that was the original flue for the boiler in the home. That would remain. We would just leave that, but we're going to take that off and put replacement shingles with it.
so that's another shot of that. And then there's the original chimney, which is
On
remaining.
the south side, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't see any spark arrestor or extension of that chimney. Is that something that needs to be considered?
Well, the original one was never a fireplace. It was the flue for the boiler downstairs. Yeah. And it was kind of construction back that carries all the way through the home. The brick, basically a pilaster going through the whole house. We have to do a little repair on the lead flashing, but other than that, it's in pretty good shape.
Interesting design, too, that cap.
Oh, I have a question. Since I'm not real accustomed to looking at architectural drawings, what are you're going to take the existing patio cover off? Or
Yes, our intent is to, it was,
and then what will the new cover look like?
we won't have one. We will
Oh,
keep
it's
it open the way it
uncovered?
originally was done.
So this shed roof addition, this plane right here, would be removed,
Yeah.
which would then you would be able to see,
Exactly.
just like you can see this one, you would be able to see this other clipped gable in the back.
And all those decks would be open.
And the decks would be open. That's kind of shown here.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now, the gable, if you look on the west elevation, the right side of that, that's the kitchen. You just really can't even see it. They just slammed that deck cover in there and really didn't care much what it did to the home itself. So the intent is we'll bring it back to what I think the original intent was in the rear.
I got another little quick question, and that was in the south elevation, in the west elevation, actually the picture itself, it showed an overhead power connection to the building and new construction, and it looks like in that area. Is that proposed to be moved out to the side, or is it just going to stay under that cover, or?
Our intent is to probably keep it where it's at. We are checking that out. It's 200 amp service, and it is adequate, but we're checking on that. Internally, we're having to rewire the house. So that may cause that to be moved, but the power is provided from the rear. So if it does need to move, it would not be anywhere near the front of the home.
Right, it'd be out on the side
Yeah.
at worst. Okay, we have any more discussion?
That's great.
Can we hear a motion on item number 2?
I'll do it. Mr. Chairman, I vote to approve the request, item HP 16006, request for approval for a deck addition, repairs, and roof modifications in rear.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Again, a unanimous decision. Item number 3, HP 16005, 117 East Gurley Street, Historic Preservation District Number 2, Elks Theater. Request approval for fire escape on west side of building. Ms. Moody.
As stated, this is a request for a new fire escape for the Elks Theater on the west side of the building. You may recall we reviewed several of the items related to the remodeling of the theater, including an item here. This is on the east side, and we approved the enclosure of this stairway in the past. And in this case, we're on the opposite side of the theater. And this is the current condition. This is an existing fire escape which does not meet current building code egress requirements. And so the building department is requiring that a new fire escape be constructed in the same location. And the proposed fire escape will look like this, and it will be painted in the same color as the current fire escape is painted, because that's recently been repainted as part of the improvements to the building. So this fire escape will look very much like the one that's there. It will just meet current building code requirements. And the architect is here to answer any questions, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to you all.
Do we have any comment from the commission?
Just a point of clarification. Is this in right-of-way there of the alley, or?
I believe it is, yes. Frank, would you
How
mind?
does that work these days, Frank?
Hi, Frank DeGrazia, 105 Cortez.
Welcome.
Hi. Yes, there's an easement in place for the existing fire escape that's occurring now. And I've been through with Public Works at this time. And so I have a verbal approval at this time. What we're going to do is expand it out probably another 10 inches or so to the west into the alley. And then the horizontal leg, if you will, of that last stringer will run a little bit further to the north than the existing one. And so it may be, depending what they come up with during plan review, the owner will either have to readjust their ALTA survey to include that encroachment.
So it's
Right.
an easement in public right-of-way.
Right, and just like the marquee on the north side, that has its own easement. The fire escape that comes out of the theater on the east side, all these encroach. The back stairs encroach into someone else. But in any event, we're dealing with all that. The other, I think that's the only thing that we have to worry about as far as right away.
Just curious.
Sure. Yeah, better hit it now, huh?
Yeah. Get that alley open again. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Pardon me 1 second. The other issue that we do have to be aware of is that or the first landing, if you were going up, but the last one coming down, yes, right there. The requirement for that is clearance above the alley of 13'6" minimum.
Fire trucks.
And the top of that's 15.9 and some change. So we'll more than meet that. That gives enough clearance for any kind of truck if it had to pass underneath that, to be clear.
But there's a column there too?
That column sets in approximately 2.5 feet.
So there's a cantilever there.
It's cantilevered out. that
Right, and
landing.
that's part of the issue we're having now is
Okay.
I had to design something because we couldn't attach to the building at this point because all the paint was dry inside. And so, in any event, yeah, those
Okay.
sit there and everything cantilevers off it.
And that, the height clearance, that's for our fire trucks to get through?
Well, the fire trucks, talking to the fire department a little bit, they probably wouldn't go up there on the opposite side of the alley. There's some electrical wires. But basically, that structure sets out less than other obstructions further up the alley where there's some SES sitting on a concrete pad from like behind spilled pizza and stuff like that. That necks the alley down. But a garbage truck, if they're getting that close, we're in trouble anyway. There's still, if I recall correctly, 18 some feet, 18.9, 18.10 from the outside edge of those platforms to the other building. So there's plenty of room for one-way traffic.
And I noticed that on the east side, you came back and asked for some storage underneath. This looks
No, it
too
wasn't-
too narrow to have that, any of that.
Well, it wasn't storage. It was more for security.
Okay.
In terms of people sleeping underneath there,
So
that
that's-
area there.
Right.
Right. The owner just wanted to enclose it because, potential for vandalism and everything too.
Right.
So
And you don't see any issue on this side? I mean, as far as securing the bottom of that bottom landing?
no. Well, it's presently open now with a keep offs, and those doors, they'll have no access through the building and they can't reach the windows. So
Very good.
okay.
Okay, any more comments?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve HP 16-005.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Once again, a unanimous decision.
And I'd like to add a thank you to Frank,
Absolutely.
who gave us a wonderful tour of the space a little over a month ago. For those of the commission members who showed up, we got the whole backstory, a complete tour, got to learn about the decision-making process and how things were developed for the new space that's about to come online in the front of the theater, which will be a huge asset for this community. And Frank has worked tirelessly with the property owner, and I know that's sometimes been difficult for you, but thank you very much for what you've done for the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you,
And,
Frank.
Thank you,
That was
Frank.
a real eye-opener.
Yeah.
That was great.
One quick question, Frank. When will the construction project be complete?
We are basically done. The city came over, I think sometime this week, and did a review. They had 4 items that the contractor needs to address. On the street front, there's a barber shop in place now as a rental. That's been open since about the 1st of July. They just received their certificate of occupancy. And so this is the last remaining thread of the project at this point, this fire escape. So once we have that done, then we can have a C of O, certificate of occupancy, and the owner can use the 2nd and 3rd floor. I think the 1st floor would be available now for rental space. Like I say, there's one occupant in there now, and they're operating, so.
It's a wonderful project.
Yeah, it's been pretty good, so.
Yeah, the barber shop is beautiful.
Yeah, that turned out pretty well,
Yeah.
I thought, and he seems to have a pretty good business going on there, too. Every time I go by, there's people getting there. I don't go too much anymore. But he does all right. Anything else? Okay, thank you again.
Thank you. Item number 4, HP 16-007, 309 South Mount Vernon Avenue, Historic Preservation District 13, Southeast Prescott. Request approval for repair of foundation and complete rebuild of front porch and landscape improvements. Should now hear a presentation.
This is a recently purchased home, and the new property owners are looking to repair some of the most needed items for this home. The foundation is in need of repair, and so that is one of the first things they're looking to do, is do any foundation repairs that are required. And I think I have a shot. Just one moment. Oh, I don't see it. So the foundation is in need of repair. And then additionally, this front porch is sagging and has been, water has been infiltrating under the porch and under the foundation. And so that's the reason that they're looking at repairing this porch. And the intention is to put the porch back like it is, with the exception of these column bases. So these columns will be, the porch is going to be held up, jacked up, the roof will be held up, and then the porch will be reconstructed underneath. And then these column bases, instead of being wrapped in the horizontal siding, the property owner's wishing to do a natural stone veneer around the base of these columns. And additionally, there's going to be some work in the front yard for grading to ensure that water doesn't continue to infiltrate under the home. And then they're also looking to do a brick front walkway. Right now there's a concrete walkway, and you can see that in this shot here too. So they're looking to do a brick front walk. And then this is a vinyl fence in front of the property, an existing vinyl fence, and they are wanting to take that out and put a wood picket style fence in place of the vinyl fence. And then here's a shot of the front door. The front screen door is in bad shape, and they're looking to replace that screen door with a nearly identical newer version of that screen door. So it'll just be a full screen door for the front door of the home. The original door is just going to be is going to remain, but they're going to work on, there's some gaps and infiltration of air around the door, and so that will just be repaired via the door jamb. And I think that's, they're also looking to place a decorative awning over the window left of the front porch, so that's here. And so that awning would be just a little bit of a shade there for that that west window beside the front porch. And that includes the changes that are being proposed. So with that, I'll turn it over to you all.
Okay. We have any comments or any ideas from the commission?
I have a question. The columns, including the one column that is in the center that doesn't really do anything, those are going to be replaced with a, they'll be wrapped in stone. What type of stone is that?
Oh, have the property owner.
Great.
Please state your name and address.
Yes.
John Dombrowski, 309 South Mount Vernon.
Welcome.
And the architect was Allianz architect Richard Davis here in Prescott, and Jacob Vinton was Core Construction Group for the engineering on this. Yes, we were planning on wrapping it with the stone, and I have a sample of the stone if you want out in my car. I didn't bring it with me, but it's in my car.
Just a description. Is it going to be?
It's not stacked.
Stone,
it's not stacked stone. It's a flat kind of. It's gray. It's going to be similar to the color of the home that we're going to be painting the home. It's. I don't know how to explain it to you. It's not natural river rock. It's more of a
Angular.
Angular, yes, stone, and varying shapes and sizes.
Right. I think it's a good idea to do that. I hate to, if those are the original and they look like they are.
I don't know. The home's been, they replaced a lot of the wood siding, and with the, I don't know if it's like a composite type siding.
Oh, okay.
So it's not all the natural original wood
Original. Okay.
that's on there.
Well, I think it's a nice idea to replace it with a rock.
Yeah, that's
it
what we
looked
thought
good.
too.
I
think-
doubt that wrap was original. I doubt they were originally wrapped in that horizontal siding.
It looks like there was some attempt to match the siding on the house.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, and that's why we thought it would be nice to, instead of replace that again, to do something that might have been more original to. And we tried to find pictures. We went down to the, I forget the name of it.
Charlotte Hall.
Charlotte Hall. We tried to
Oh,
find
yeah,
pictures of the home
okay.
to see what it was, but we couldn't find anything for the home. So we thought, looking at others, that might be something that might be more original.
I mean, personally, just personally, I'm thinking it would look great in like a river rock or like a stacked rock.
Right.
But
It's going to be similar to that, but we'll have the grout lines between it. And the reason we didn't go with the river rock, that's more, and my wife's here, Tracy, also. This is more of a bungalow style. It's not really the, I think, what would you call it, Tracy?
Arts and crafts. It's a bungalow, but
It's not the arts and crafts, it's more bungalow. The arts and crafts she thought was more with the river rock, so we thought maybe that the stone that we chose would be a little bit more appropriate to the originality of the home.
yeah,
And I think that's more typical of a Prescott column base versus the river rock, which has been used in town but is less common than either a native stone or a more angular stone. Yeah.
Although
And-
I do need to say that the idea of wrapping those columns in siding is really unique. And since I live on Mount Vernon, I've often noticed those just because they're very different.
Yes.
But that's all I can say about that, especially since, Kat, you don't think they're original, then that's just
I
somebody's-
don't think they were originally wrapped in that horizontal siding.
And the home, like we said, it's really all the water's running right towards the house, so we're going to be, when they do this, they're going to be
And
regrading a little bit.
as a fellow homeowner on Mount Vernon,
know.
that we're on a slope, that is very smart.
Right, yeah.
So I'm glad you're addressing that.
And we originally did the design, or the original owner who lived there 46 years, Larry Miller, who we bought it from, he had the plans all drawn to have a concrete porch, but my wife and I would prefer to keep it wood. So we're just going to do a concrete, we had the plans redrawn, the engineering plans redrawn, we're just going to do a concrete up to the house, and then we're going to build the porch above that, all in wood. So it's going to really just look exactly the way it is right now, except for
But you'll have a concrete base?
we're going to put concrete under
Yeah.
it, yeah, and then it'll probably be whatever, the 1.5 to 2 feet. The porch will be above that.
And those existing stairs that look concrete in this picture,
And the stairs are really in bad shape.
well, those are
Everything
to
is,
be replaced
they're
with
going to be
concrete as
replaced.
well.
Yeah, we're either going to do concrete or do wood, maybe 3 wood steps from the actual, yeah.
I'd prefer that.
If that would be okay, the wood steps, we'd prefer to do it in wood.
Yeah.
If that'd be okay.
And the brick path leading up to that, tie it all together.
The steps would have been originally wood.
Yeah, and that, well, great, that's what we'd like to do too. We'd like to keep them wood then, if that's
Yeah,
possible.
I was going to suggest you might even go brick if you were going to pave, with the new pavers to kind of match that. But if you're going to go wood, that's ideal in my book.
And it's easy because we're going to have that concrete, right underneath it, right up to the house. So it'll just be a nice, clean. The engineer said, "Well, you don't need to do all that extra work." I said, "But would it be okay if we did it?" And he said, "Well, yeah, it'd be great, But okay, so that's what we're going to do.
Well, good.
And our plan is eventually, once we get the foundation done, is then to start, working on the rest of the house, which definitely needs a lot of work inside also. So that's the next step.
I would say for the commission's benefit, we see a lot of what's here. I don't see much of what you're proposing. This discussion
That's
of the
true.
stone would be much more helpful to us to actually either see representations of that, the actual stone, same thing with the fencing, and same thing with this awning over the window. Because what we're looking at is what's going to be, not what is. That would be a benefit to us. I don't think any of those are deal killers by any means, but that's what I would like to see. And the stone, I'll just have to throw in my sense of taste, which there's no accounting for anybody's taste really, is that I think those mitered boards are, I like that they, I think they complement the house.
Yeah.
Depending upon the stone
that's a taste
selected, and
thing.
once again, I don't know what it is.
If you don't mind, I'll take me 30 seconds to go grab the stone.
Bring
Yeah, and then
bring
the-
it for my benefit.
Sure.
You know, there's very little that's original, and I don't know how far back this goes. I don't know how far back we want to go in saying, well, that wasn't original. I personally think that cladding is appropriate, but then again, stone can be appropriate too.
Exactly.
Is it okay if I run real quick? Just
Yeah.
quick.
Do you have
go
an
ahead.
example of the proposed fencing as well? Picture or anything?
You know, we just, Kat had told us to just put it in there because we were,
So this was a case where they basically came in right under the deadline, and so in order to get them on this agenda, we kind of scrambled to pull this together. So I didn't get an actual fence style. I believe you're looking at just a traditional picket fence
white
with
picket fence,
yeah.
yeah. That's just basic, not a split rail type of a situation, but a real true white picket fence that's all up and down, a painted white, yeah, that's all up and down Mount Vernon.
Natural wood.
Natural wood, pine or whatever it's going to be, and just something that's close enough to where our dogs can't get through. We have little tiny dogs, but, so I'll run real quick, right
Yeah,
back to get
yeah.
the stone.
Grab
Thank
the
you.
stone.
Please do.
Yep.
Should we move to the next item, or should we just wait?
Let's just wait.
Okay.
He's not going to be that long.
But it takes longer than 30 seconds.
Are you timing them?
No.
I kind of agree with you on that. The clapboard siding. We'll see what stone we got.
Those mitered corners are always impressed me.
Is that,
Yeah, it goes with
would
that
that be
pattern.
difficult to do? I mean, would that be really like impractical to replace there, you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's difficult with stone, you know.
There's still
We
a
can,
substrate under
Tracy,
there that they're gonna have to attach
do
to.
you have an idea on the awning, whether you're going to do a rounded or a angled awning? Oh,
What I had wanted to
Can
do
you-
is just, oh, sorry, I have a loud voice, so I really don't need my.
Must be a teacher.
it's for the benefit of.
Yeah, oh, is it okay?
You can state your name. for
Tracy
the record,
Dombrowski. Do I need to give the address, or do we know? Okay, got it, I figured, okay. I just wanted to do this straight boxed on the side awning. And depending on, we were thinking of doing a palette of grays to repaint the house, and maybe the quintessential red door. So I would have the awning match whatever color I do the door. So, pretty basic.
And this appears to be a faux stone.
Engineered stone.
Yeah, it's a faux stone. But it's got a ledger look,
Post.
Yeah.
a horizontal look to it. I mean, there is some banding that's,
Yeah, the color's good.
yeah. But that is a concrete faux stone.
It's not a real natural stone.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, actually made out of concrete?
Yep, it's an engineered stone.
Wow, yeah,
See,
okay.
there's a shortage of actual stone.
Grind it up and make concrete.
We're running out of rocks.
Is that a concern if it would be concrete? I mean, we haven't ordered anything, obviously. We need to get approval first, but,
Oh, that material is used everywhere.
oh, is it? But
Yes,
is it approved material?
It's a good
I don't know.
question.
I want to make sure that what we put on there is
Well, Robert and I like the shiplap,
It's
so.
not structural.
ship.
Yeah, I'd rather see the wood personally, but, and I just kind of have a thing, I've done my share of
Restorations.
faux stone, which is amazing the way they put it together these days. It's hard to tell, but I don't know.
Yeah, the
Whatever
stone
commission wants
is
to do.
maintenance-free, totally maintenance-free, the stone, right?
Right.
But you would have to
Yeah,
continue to
yeah,
paint.
and the mitered corners are really tough, and they do open up, and I know all of that, the wood in the southwest, it would be really difficult. When I see natural stone, I think of, the stuff from Ash Fork or Perkinsville, or, the stone that ashlar laid up,
The indigenous
flagstone,
material.
sandstone. When I hear natural stone, there's schist around here as well and granite. But I don't think that's excluded from our palette by any means.
And at the street level, or street presentation, there really is, I mean, a true representation of what would be natural stone.
It's completely up, I mean, if the commission wants to stipulate that natural stone veneer be used, then that could be part of a motion, or that the column bases remain wrapped with the siding the way they are now. That's you guys can decide which direction you'd like to take that.
Okay. Well, we've heard Robert's opinion, and I kind of concur with that. Do we have any pros on that stone?
I am okay with the stone as presented.
Do we hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 110-01065 with the exception that the choice, he could put the wooden steps, it says concrete, but the wooden steps if he so desires to do that.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
I'll go ahead with it.
We've got
Don't wanna-
one, not aye. What was the count? We got 5?
Yep.
5-4. Better than 4. So the motion passes.
Thank you.
On to item number 5.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. HP 16004. Yeah. 141 South Alarcon Street, Historic Preservation District 13, Southeast, Prescott. Request approval for 2-story addition in rear. We have a presentation.
Yes. This is a front view of the house. This is an existing home that's about just over 1,000 square feet. We have previously reviewed a repair of the front porch of this home. And that was several years ago when the current property owners had just purchased the home. And this was a sagging front porch, just like the item we just reviewed. And they did do front porch repairs on the historic portion of the home. Let's see if I can. Just a second. So this is the existing residence here. That's the front porch. And then the proposed, let me see if I can get this to actually focus. There we go. This is the proposed addition. This portion of the existing home actually extends out into here. And I'll show you a picture of that. That's a prior addition to the back of the original residence here. This is the proposed addition in the rear, including a garage over here. And I'll give you a couple of views of the plan there once I show you the side. This is that rear addition. You can see this is the original portion of the home. This is the rear addition. That is That is right here. So this is the original portion of the home, including this rear addition. That will be the interface for the new addition that's being proposed. As I stated, the original house is 1,014 square feet. The proposed addition is 3,085 square feet, which gives a combined total of 4,400 square feet. And let me show you some elevations here. So this is a front elevation. So the original portion of the home is here. This is the original, this is the gable end in the front. This is the cross gable roof here. So this entire section here is the proposed two-story addition. The finish materials for the addition would be a horizontal cementitious hardy plank like siding. The gable end detail would match the existing gable end with the shingled gable end and matching attic vent. There's a proposal to place shutters, faux shutters on board and batten style shutters on those front windows to pick up on a consistency here in the front elevation. The windows in the original historic portion of the home would be replaced with a all-wood window. The windows in the addition portion of the home would be a vinyl window that would match the style of the wood windows in the historic portion of the home. And I've got a diagram. This is a sight line from the street. So this is the line of eyesight 5 feet above street level at the curb. And so this is a diagram depicting what the view might be. This is the front gable end of the home. That's the cross gable. And so this is the sight line of the view of what you might see from the street for the addition that is situated behind the historic portion of the home. And then there is as I stated earlier, a garage at the rear that's set back so that it's recessed from the historic portion of the home. We have approved in the past, we did approve a two-story structure in the rear of the house next door. So this is, and DJ had been out here recently to photograph this for the follow-up presentation. So just as a comparison of a previously approved two-story addition, this was a garage with a mother-in-law quarters over the top of that garage. And so this is the house next door, which you can see in this photo. The house we're looking at now is this one, and then this is the house next door, and their two-story addition is tucked back behind there. And I do have a sample of the roof. The roofing material would be an architectural grade shingle, amber color. And I do have a sample of these are the vinyl window. Like I said, in the new, these would be a Milgard window. These would be only in the, and they would match the style as shown on the plans. But that would be the vinyl window that would only go in the new addition portion, and then an all-wood window that would match the existing window style would be in the historic portion. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you all for discussion.
Okay. We have any questions?
Yeah, I have one. Could I ask George?
Yeah, site coverage.
Is it, so, yeah, so MF heavy, if we're doing single-family residential, refresh my memory on the zoning ordinance, lot coverage, is there any difference between if you're doing multifamily, be 50% and residential be 40?
It's the same lot coverage. We actually did a calculation of it prior to their submittal to you. They are under it just slightly. So they do comply with the requirements for setbacks and for the lot coverage requirements.
So lot coverage is the same whether it's single family or multifamily?
No, there is the 10% difference. It's 40 for one and 50 for the other, I believe. And I don't have it handy, so I apologize.
But there's plenty of lot.
Maybe my math is slow here today, but 40% of 7,500.
And that footprint graphically is larger. But this is 2 stories.
So it,
Okay, so I apologize. It's 50%.
I'm sorry?
It's the same 50%.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
40% it doesn't work.
No,
Okay. Thank you for refreshing my memory on the ordinance.
I had to refresh my memory and go look at the plans.
While you're here, I had a question in regards to that driveway. That driveway curb cut is presently in place, and they're proposing that we extend this driveway virtually the full length of this new structure,
Yes.
front-loaded, and we previously approved that 2-story addition next door, actually. Was it detached?
it was
was-
detached.
And it was,
Detached and
and it was
access from the alley.
alley-loaded, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was access from the alley.
On single-family uses where the property owners have full control of the access and the vehicles, we allow for long driveways with long backing distances. We also allow for tandem parking. Again, the property owners have full control of that. If it's a multifamily use, we're not going to have apartment A block apartment B in with a situation like this, but we do allow for it on single family. And it's not completely out of character with other older neighborhood designs where you end up with a long driveway. Our biggest concern is from the sidewalk to the street, that there's sufficient room for them to see before backing into the street.
Yeah,
And there is in this case.
Quite a distance. And I'd like to hear from the applicant if we could, because the present home looks like it could use some renovation on some of the exterior materials as well.
Good morning. Ken and Sandy Wangler, 141 South Alarcon.
Welcome. The intention, would there be renovation to the exterior materials on the building?
Absolutely, yes. We've been waiting. We had to, when we purchased it, we had to shore up and actually redid the foundation at the front of the house, which had split wide open and was concrete at the time, and was crumbling. So we had that replaced, as long as put in a new foundation, a new footing along the south side of the house, and then that was rebuilt with 2x6 and then covered with cedar siding to match the original. So we've been holding off on our ultimate desire to do this, to do the face of the house and redo it all at once at that time. But the entire face of the house is going to be re-sided, new shutters. We intend to fix the existing windows if at all possible, in front with the pulley systems. And if we can rehab them and keep them, we intend to do that. If we can't, we're going to just replace it with something as absolutely as close as possible to that original.
It's quite an undertaking.
Yes. Yeah, it needs a lot of TLC.
Yes.
See this.
Huge undertaking.
Ken, did you get past the mysterious water appearance underneath the house?
Yes. It appears as though it was just something from some source that maybe had been running through the yard, and
Just curious about mechanics.
like from underground, because nobody could find a source anywhere other than that. And it was just, it happened to find the irrigation box as a low point, where before it used to just continue to run down grade, to the street level or whatever. So it was in our irrigation box. It went away and it's never returned. So,
Oh, that's good.
yeah. So we were happy to hear it wasn't coming from underneath underneath the house, and, through the front of the house, rather. So.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I would like to say that I have a sense that we're tripling the size of this property, and it's all well within your precinct, and that George has confirmed that the numbers work out. I just have a little bit of hesitation, and I know that whole area is, I would have liked to have seen something more appropriate to the scale of the neighborhoods. We can argue that there are houses there, there's two-story next to it. We can also argue there are a lot of very, very small houses in that neighborhood. So I think that's just my first hit. My first take on the thing is like, whoa, this is pretty large.
Yeah.
So I want to also be assured that this will be single-family residence in a multifamily district. Well, the conversion, I guess, would then come back through the city again. So, and then, actually, DJ had a good question about mechanical systems, where the exterior unit's
Ground-mounted,
gonna be.
roof-mounted.
Other things that also increase the presence of the building on site.
Right.
Let alone the footprint.
Right. Yeah, that would all be, interior systems, HVAC systems and everything. It'll be nothing. There's an original chimney on the front that we intend to leave there. We have tried to, because of the way the house is situated, as you stand in the street, if you're standing there, even like at my height, my head, I'm below the level of the stairs. So we knew it was 2 stories and it was really a large expansion of the original, but we tried to keep it, we stayed true to the 10-foot ceilings, 9'9" or so inside the original house back through the new kitchen. And then at that point, we're not following the grade upward. We're minimizing the ceilings inside because we also were trying to make it as least visible from the street as possible. So we've sacrificed as you go back in the house, at the rear of the house, the ceilings are actually becoming slightly under 8 feet in that area. And then upstairs as well, we are at 8 foot on the ceiling heights. And that was all in an effort to make sure that as the house went back and the lot, which goes up, which grades uphill from the street, that the house didn't rise with it. And then it sort of disappeared, as it went back. So we've tried to kind of honor that look from the street. Obviously, we saw it, fell in love with it. We don't want to change it. We would like a bigger home, for our family. But we also, we would like from, most angles for it to look very much like it does now.
I think it's more the kind of overall massing in the neighborhood, not just the look from the street. It's just the overall quality of how much space is being taken up. just in general, the overall mass there.
Volume.
And
Yep.
volume, and, that's just a druther. You're working within your constraints,
Yeah.
which are fairly broad in this, this area. A lot of the rest of town is 40% lot coverage.
Yes.
In single-family zoning, but that comes with the property. I mean, it comes with the territory, and it's something that is allowed. I just, again, so I will focus on tending to the detailing of the original property, and not, since there is so much of the new, that it not be without detail that would also conform to the street look. And I see some of that. I don't know where these shutters that were shown are going, just on the front, or are they going to be around on the sides as well? But I would lobby for detailing this large expanse to an existing smallish, well-detailed house. Well, might be a point of contention, to focus on that a little bit, to also kind of settle that mass into the neighborhood as well.
Yeah, and while it is, that 4,400 square foot number under roof, we have, as you go back in there, we were sensitive to the fact of the neighboring structures and everything, and it actually goes in behind that original portion that Kat had detailed, the added structure where our staircase will be. It goes back in 4.5 feet, and then we actually bring it back even more from that to part of that area is a first floor exterior kind of living space. It's under roof, but the structure itself goes back 14 feet, or 12.5 feet, the covered patio area. So that goes back, so the actual walls of the structure itself go back, and the house, narrows as you go back.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it does.
So will this hardy plank siding be at the same exposure or is the whole front of the house? I kind of missed a little bit of the conversation there. I apologize. The hardy plank siding that's going on, will that same exposure be throughout the project?
Yeah, we measured it, and when we had that replaced on the repair, the front, it's kind of a tongue and groove variety.
Right.
It's which is what the original was, so that's what we found and added on to that small portion in front, and we love it, and we want to stick with that, throughout the entire house. We don't want to change anything about it. We chose the shingles we chose was to try and represent what we thought might be representative of a shake type shingle that was there originally, and then we're absolutely keeping it white, and with the bluish shutters that we have now. So we're trying to maintain the look we have now, from the front, and just.
So I'm sorry, I'm confused. I apologize. The siding that's on the original house is going to stay.
No, it's not. It's really not salvageable. It was, aside from being sprayed with that stucco type material, that
Right.
junk.
Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah, and it's underneath it. We don't feel that there's a lot there to be really salvageable. I mean, we could, take a heat gun to it and see what happens if we were able to scrape it off and everything.
So the
but-
hardy plank is going on everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you. That clarifies it for me.
yeah.
Any other comments? I had just one. I kind of leaning to the idea that, in concurrence with Robert, that the massing of this thing is almost overwhelms the existing structure. That being said, I'm also looking at this front elevation, and there's some massive trees out in the front yard that really do some screening regardless, because you went to the extent of showing some sight lines, some sight visibility lines in those profiles from the front street in your building elevations. And you know, I was just kind of looking at the proportions of that, what you would actually see from the sidewalk versus the street. Those sight lines were taken from, I'm assuming, standing at mid-street or car level line, or
At the curb.
at curb from a human 5-foot eye level.
Yeah, I think the reference on the thing, did it say 5 foot?
Yep.
My wife's 5'1", she took the first. Yeah, it was,
And I'm looking at this versus this, you know. Fortunately, it's not that overwhelming. It's kept in kind of tight. And any intention on these trees? I mean, they're very, very mature. Are these going to be dressed up a bit or trimmed out a little bit? I mean, it looks like there's some dead stuff in there as well.
well, we're happy to do that. Generally, we're trying to save them from the power company coming and taking too much of them away from the, because the power lines run in front.
Right.
So that's kind of an annual battle we have to make sure that it's, but yeah, we would be happy to. I've trimmed it, you know, to the extent that I could with the kind of equipment that I have, but yeah, we could, you know, get up there and.
Well, I just see those trees as being an asset as far as screening the proposed massing in the rear, you know, and that's well within,
yeah,
you know, the definition of our zoning ordinance. So
yeah, we keep the foliage cleaned up to a certain low enough height where that western setting sun doesn't, you know, blast in on our porch. So we always kind of keep it down at that level in wood.
and the level of detail really does emulate what's existing. You know, we've seen other examples where the new construction is clearly defined from the existing structure. This kind of really ties it all together. I don't see a whole lot of articulated difference between new and old. Maybe that's a plus. We got any? I'd really like to hear from Christie.
I know, I wear my emotions on my face, I know. I'm really overwhelmed by this. I hardly know what to say about it. I mean, it seems like we're out, I mean, I feel like I'm way out of my area of expertise here, because you're talking about building a very, very large house on a little lot attached to a tiny little structure that is old. And it just doesn't, it's hard, I can't get my mind around it, because I know that we have our duty here. I mean, we have the things that we're looking at very specifically, and I'm trying to narrow my focus down. It is very hard. I'm just having a lot of trouble with the concept, and that's not that's not what we're talking about here, because you've made your decision, and that's what we're going with.
It sounds like you're talking about the building massing itself.
Yes, the building mass, yeah. Yeah, and the nature of the neighborhood. I mean, over on Mount Vernon, if you wanted a 4,000 square foot house, you put it on, a lot and a half, or two, and it looks like a 4,000 square foot house. And yet next door to me, I do have a very small, very low profile, but rather extensive floor space next to me. So, yeah, hard. I'm still struggling with it, sorry.
And this proposed floor plan doesn't lend itself to multifamily down the line, or it really doesn't?
No,
And this is
absolutely
your
not.
intention, just single family?
Yes.
So is it single family zoned now, or is it not?
Multifamily.
Multifamily.
Oh, it is. So conceivably, it could be a multifamily structure.
Or could be now, yeah.
Yes, now, it could be built as such, yes, but it's not.
But this floor
There's not the
plan doesn't
intention.
indicate that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
No, the floor plan, yeah, not the issue.
Right.
Well, was it, did I see right on the original floor plan that there was no kitchen in your original house?
Oh, no, there is. I think the original house is the 1914 portion. The current entrance into the kitchen was the exterior door. I think the kitchen portion was added in 1937, I think we were told.
Oh, wow.
Whatever. But it's, yeah, that portion that was added in back is kind of, we're having some problems with the way it was built. The materials that were used dying into the soil line and things like that. So it's, it needs a lot of, work back in that area. Thing.
And they're maintaining this.
And if it were to like open up in terms of any concerns about sort of any crowd or anything like that, that under roof portion does include the existing shed. We've only kept it in there because it is old and potentially with the original house, it's kind of fallen apart. We were hoping to leave it just because we love it, but if it came down to relinquishing that would be obviously the first thing that we would,
And sometimes you really do have to do that. I mean, you have to say, this is just not worth the trouble to keep.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Kat, could you put up this one? We'll get some.
The front picture,
The rear.
No, the rear.
the rear,
So DJ and I are discussing whether that
this is,
is where the water I'm assuming water heater is
Yes.
now. Is that where these French doors are into the dining room?
No, I think it'd be further back from that because it should be,
In here.
oh, no, they're back, the length of that kitchen room, which I think is 23 feet.
Okay, but we are, yes, slide on back there.
Yeah, so,
Right.
yeah, 23 feet back
There.
from there, just outside of the vision, of the screen there, on that right-hand side of that dining area, that's where those French doors are.
So where is the existing house in this?
right here.
Thank you. Okay. Okay.
This
That
point
cutout.
here is this point on the house right now. That's that old addition, which is right here.
Electrical service is right there now.
Yep.
So two things. Where's the new electrical service going to be? Where's your outside condensing unit for the air conditioning?
I believe it was on the, does it
Or
show
maybe
on there?
second-
I don't-
think-
it
know was
doesn't.
east.
Clear enough?
It was on the east end of the house, or it was under, on the,
So you think it's
I think we would have put it,
over here?
no, no, it would be over to, on the east end, because we wanted to keep it away from the neighbors.
So
We
the
wanted-
east,
Right, yeah, right back there somewhere, I believe, is where,
Seeing out here.
So at the-
under
where
that
Genesis
stair.
Design
By the
had
alley.
envisioned it going, yeah.
so that would be
That's a
along
way-
here.
There's a long lunge.
Yeah, somewhere, yeah, back in there, so we keep it away from the neighboring,
So mechanical
homes.
and new electrical service would be back there?
yeah.
The service is from the alley. Okay?
Yeah, currently the service comes from a pole right next to that existing shed, or existing garage.
I was just curious on this existing shed that's back there. Is that operating as a garage as well, or is that just
No,
storage? And
Yeah.
it's- And it's to be restored on the exterior as well?
no, we don't have any intention of doing any restoration to it. It's currently got corrugated metal on one side, and it's got vertical wood siding on it, corrugated metal roof, and, yeah, it's,
And it's salvageable, obviously, that's something you desire.
Yeah, I really shored it up inside, but it's for tools and everything currently, and that's what we use it for.
You're talking about the really rustic-looking sheds way in the back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, back up
Is there, I noticed the retaining wall is failing around there. Is that something you plan on addressing, or do you need to, or?
You know, it certainly would like to. I think when we get done with that portion, there's some yard in that back portion on the north side of that shed. And, you know, we'd like to put some foliage there and everything. And I think at that point, we'll have to address what that wall is doing. It's about 2 feet high. It's concrete, and it's just kind of leaning a little bit. I think split in one spot. It's not under a great deal of stress because there's only a couple feet of soil there. But yeah, we obviously, you know.
At some point, you'll.
Yes, yeah, whatever we want to, yeah, exactly. We want to do everything we can to just make the whole thing look.
But you're keeping the old sheds though, right?
We would like to, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why it's included in the under roof. We love it. You know?
Yeah, I would like it too.
Yeah.
It's a neat shed.
Yeah, I love being in there. It's,
The reason I asked is I was just contemplating the idea of rear loading that garage, and there's really no way to do that with that shed there. But that's just a personal
Understood.
preference. Because, I mean, that concrete drive is going to eat up a lot of potential landscaping
I don't know,
to
just
the
been.
adjacent neighbors.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty tight entrance in from the alley on the back. I don't know how much, you know, would be in, and I don't know if there's enough room to, like, turn a vehicle, like, into the garage for, like, a rear loading.
So you don't know if there's enough turnaround space there?
Well, we had never gone down that path.
No, I was talking about here. Does this always have to be in and out and backing? We'll always have to back out?
That'd be the only
Oh, yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Do you want us to keep that shed?
There is no turnaround,
No.
yeah.
Yeah, that
No.
doesn't seem very practical in the snow.
And that includes.
You don't have to do it.
Existing shed, that's only 3 feet, so it's that total. Residential footprint.
This makes a
proposed
lot
new.
more sense. A lot more
What do they have
sense,
for
but then
existing?
the shed's in the way.
So that must be new and existing.
Yeah, true.
I think we have a glitch in our ordinance. I'm going to have to put it that way. I can't in good conscience support this. I know it meets the ordinance criteria. I know it meets height criteria. We're in a multifamily situation where it's not multifamily, so you get that extra 10% benefit that the rest of the town doesn't get. I'm kind of like Christie. I'm just overwhelmed. I appreciate that, you know, you want to do what you want to do, but we're here to, I'm here to help continue this community in some sort of rational manner, aesthetic manner, and I can't support this project.
Along those lines, I mean, that's why we're called the preservation.
Yeah.
Is it preserving the integrity of the neighborhoods? We have any other comments?
Can I say something?
Certainly.
I understand.
Can you state your name?
My name is Sandy Wengler.
Okay.
This is my home.
Yes.
So I understand your concerns, we really do. We've tried really hard to stay in keeping. We were very conscious of like the roof lines and try to make sure that they were small. We do have precedence with the neighbor. They have they took up their whole lot, and we actually have yard. I understand that that's your opinion, that you don't like it. I don't know how the committee works, really. This is something that, this is our home that we would like to live in and to make it comfortable for us to live in with our family is something that we really want. There are large homes, there are small homes. We are in keeping with the ordinances, and I respect your opinion, but I can't wrap my brain around why this would be an issue to beautify that neighborhood. I just don't get it. Sorry.
So to just give you all some direction, additions in the rear of the home are, according to the Historic Preservation Master Plan, are generally permitted as long as they don't overwhelm the historic home. So the scale and massing is something that is in the purview of this commission. It's not, I think what I'm hearing is that the materials and the treatment that you're seeing are not necessarily an issue. They're picking up on some of the historic detailing and incorporating that in the new edition. But I think scale and massing is definitely something that does fall within the realm of, what we're looking at here. So the question is, does this overwhelm the historic home, to a degree that it changes the entire, feel of the street because of the footprint on the lot. And so, there's, you guys have a couple of options. I mean, you can request that something comes back before the commission that has a smaller, that is within a 40% lot coverage, just to scale it back just a little. And then potentially that would be, the scale and massing would be a little bit reined in for the addition as opposed to the historic portion of the home. These are, I'm just throwing some things out for you to consider, because I sense that there's a
compromise.
Yeah, a conflict on how to proceed.
Is there anything in our guidelines as far as rear additions go on the percentage of new versus old?
No, it's the nationals, the standards, Interior, Department of Interior standards state that additions to the historic, original historic home need to be in keeping with the scale and massing of the historic portion of the home and not to overwhelm the historic home. That's the way it reads.
Well, and to follow up on that, I'd like to say you've chosen to, I know you want to do what you want to do, but you've chosen to be in an historic district, and as our preservation officer just commented on, there are some constraints to that. You
can't have both.
I mean, it's just like you can't do a 4-story building there because the ordinances don't allow you, even though you might want to. And I think it's hard to say that this, just looking at these elevations and say that this does not overwhelm this. This does not overwhelm this. I don't think you can say that. I appreciate that we have a, citizens' rights issue here. That, by golly, this is my piece of land. I'm going to do what I want on it. But you've chosen to be in a preservation district, and we get to say something about that. So I'm lobbying my other commissioners to maybe have this be rethought and brought back to us.
So one option potentially would be to defer, and we can arrange a site visit so we can all be on site, see what the view from the street looks like, see what it looks like in the back, that's potentially an option that we can arrange
Well,
that.
some jurisdictions require, which we don't, but might be useful if we want to be lobbied by the owners to garner our approvals, and maybe it be surveyed and staked where the footprints are, and some poles put in where the heights are, ridge, eave lines. I've dealt with that before in other jurisdictions. That's not what I'm saying.
On the coastal commissions of California,
Yeah.
they
Right.
stake out everything.
Yeah.
4-1.
Visibility is critical.
But,
4-1 south of Larkin.
I'm not talking about not doing anything on this property at all. Don't construe it to mean that. It's just a little more sensitivity to the historic district. That's all we've got to hang our hat on in this area. That's all we've got. You've got your complying by your the ordinances. The city is allowing 50% because it's multifamily. You've kind of gotten a benefit from that. I would like to see that maybe responded to in another manner than to max out what is possible.
And our concern too is that, this,
I'm not sure why.
this is being designed for a modern family, and and our daughters are, growing up. We're thinking about, grandkids. We're thinking about usage for our family, and that has a lot to do with, the expansion that we're doing it. So that's that's extremely important to us. Nobody loves that original house more than we do, but family can't live in a 1,014 square foot thing, certainly not ours, and so that's, that element of it is something that we really are, really compels us. It's how you want to live in your home, right? So that's why we did go through the lengths to, keep that ridge line down. The original plan that we were given was, we rejected it ourselves, right out of hand, and said it's got to be, it's got to be redone to disappear more from the street and everything. So, I just, if we're going down this road about redesign in any way, we just, feel like we would like to be appreciated for the fact that we, this isn't about making a statement. It's about our family living space,
You've lived in this house?
Yes.
And for how long?
We've owned it for 5 years. Yeah, so this,
So you're not permanently in this house?
No,
Because I see the address here is Gilbert.
Yeah, that's the dream, is to be up here living in that house.
Okay.
So
I'm clearer now on that issue as well.
I think of note also is this commission makes only a recommendation to City Council. We have City Council represented here today. I was just curious if Councilman Shiska would have a word.
Do I have to?
I know, you're new to
You
this.
don't. It's your choice.
I have a couple of thoughts. One is, when I first saw it, like you, I was overwhelmed, and I'm just looking at that thing and I'm going, wow. That little house is going to be dwarfed by this situation. On the other hand, it sounds like we approved a 2-story situation right next door.
Although with a much smaller footprint.
Okay.
It's just a garage footprint, a 2-car garage footprint, but it is got a second story above. But the actual building is just a garage footprint.
That's why I asked for the address, so that I could go look at it myself.
Yeah.
And see. But, I understand your concerns in that historic neighborhood. I also understand the homeowners and their concerns that they have to provide for their family and the future needs of their family. And also, they seem like they are somewhat sensitive to preserving the overall feel of the outside of the building, the current building. You guys have a tough situation, and I understand, how you feel. But I think the way I would react to this would be to have an on-site visit and just take a look at what you guys would see once you got over there to that property. And if you could, justify it from a historic situation after that. So that's my feeling. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I kind of agree with that idea as far as a motion we might entertain.
And just to correct you, DJ.
What?
You do not make just a recommendation. This is actually, a public commission that is governing over the local preservation districts. So it's more than just a recommendation.
I got that. And that is our duty and our responsibility.
But I think a site visit is probably, to defer the item and to do a site visit is probably very important at this point, given the reservation that has been expressed.
And there is a saving grace in just standing there on that curb of those big trees and those sight lines. I think we can get a better sense of really what's being proposed in the building massing and the adjacent massings. So
yes,
kind of like to hear a motion in that direction. We got anything?
Motion to defer this until a later date where we can make a site visit to the home.
Mr. Chairman, just to let you know, we do advertise those meetings. It is considered a meeting. We would have a couple of weeks of advertising time ahead of time. We will get with you to organize a date.
For a deferral and then a site
yeah.
visit.
That would be public, open to the public?
Has to be more than
Because this is a public.
It's a public.
It is a public meeting, so it will be advertised
some
as being a
help.
site visit.
For more input.
Yeah, yes.
I doubt there'll be a flood of people wanting to do the site visit.
So if we gathered out front or wherever and took a look at this as a group, we would have maybe some reference points.
Could we see it staked or
I would
some
amend-
sight lines?
I would amend the motion to require survey stakes at the corners and some sort of, not necessarily pole, but some sort of recognition of overall heights at both
Right.
the existing residence rear and the rear of the proposed residence. I would move to amend the original motion.
And also, not necessarily in the amendment, but to come up with a date that's agreeable with everyone.
Of course.
And we do have a second, so do we hear a second?
A second. I'll second it, or you want to second it?
Shall I amend my motion?
I think it's just been amended.
It's been amended and seconded.
Okay. And can,
Chris,
I did the first second.
Okay.
Tony seconded first, Christie
Okay,
seconded
the
second.
amendment to the motion. And do we have any idea what kind of date we could set on that?
It'll be a couple of weeks.
I will communicate via email.
Okay.
Labor Day weekend time?
Probably not.
Yeah, I hope not.
Is it better if you're all on the weekends and you don't live here during the week? Probably. I mean, you have to consider them if they're coming up.
So we'll arrange a time that works for everybody.
Okay.
That kind of detail is,
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have a unanimous vote. Next item
thank you.
is update of current events or other items of note. We have anything, Kat?
I do not have anything. Does anybody else have anything? Okay.
Just
I have something. Sorry. I noticed the fence on,
Mount Vernon and Carlton.
thank you, Mount Vernon and Carlton has been modified, and
Oh.
it is a bit of an improvement. I appreciate it.
I had the opportunity to use that fence yesterday, and I didn't have any trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
You
it
went up
works.
there and
It
stopped?
works.
The site
sight
distance,
lines.
the sight line is improved.
Yeah, the sightline.
Yeah.
Nobody ran into me.
You need to pull right up to the line.
You successfully
another issue,
negotiated it. Good.
The infill project where the bird cage burned down, and I should be just talking to the owners on this one, but I think that was billed as, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not down all that much, but as that being a public passageway for most of the time, or a good portion of the time.
That's how it was presented to us.
From the parking garage to downtown, and I have yet to been able to
Get through there.
go through there. And I
You're talking about
understand
Holiday
it's their
Court.
private property and all, but that was billed to the commission for approvals on all those various approvals what we went through. And it seems to me to be a private venue.
It is.
It is, and even to take those photographs that we documented, I had to run upstairs to the hotel, grab some staff to grab some keys to
Yeah.
allow me in.
And the reason I say that is just to refresh my memory that we don't always get what people say they're going to do. I don't always do what I say I'm going to do. I'm in that big realm of people do this, but it's it's a little disconcerting to
But
me.
yes, because it really did impact our
Did
basic
mine.
approach to the plans, because we thought, wow, this is a wonderful public service here, is to get, and they proposed that too, that this is a good way for people to,
Main access
They
from
did.
the parking garage
They
to the
did
street.
promote it that way through all of our, and we did review that project multiple times.
Yes.
It went on and on. So I believe that basically what happened is after putting all the effort and all the money they put into the space, they didn't want it to get trashed.
Exactly. It's just a little.
And so
Understandably so.
they changed their
Like I
mind.
say, I should be talking to them.
They changed their mind, yes. But you're right, that was something that was stated repeatedly throughout the approval process.
Well, I think it'd be fun to have a catwalk from the garage right over their project.
Well, it did go back to city council for review, too.
Zip line.
A zip line. Yeah, you better.
Yeah.
From the top floor.
Okay, we have any other items?
Well, I can tell you that I have walked down there at approximately 10 o'clock at night, and there's been more than one occasion that there's been 2 or 3 people sleeping in front of the gates.
Yeah, but they won't be up here.
Well, I can understand their concerns, and they did spend a lot of money on it.
I don't mind that. I just mind someone saying they'll do something and it not happening.
It was a little too ambitious of them, I think. A little too ambitious.
Point noted. Okay, if there are no other items of discussion, we shall adjourn the August 12th, 2016 meeting.
Good job.
We tried.
Looks like they're going to put a mansion on that thing.